Hi guys, and welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we're continuing on with our little sort of glow effects series that we've been doing. We've got this picture of the city down below, a little parallax image right there. When we hover over it, it's going to have this animated glowing dots appear, and we've got a little call to action here. When you get back off of it again, it's going to go back into that picture of the city there for us. That's a great little effect. We've got to do a bit of coding for this today. But don't let the coding put you off. It's really easy. We're going to use a bit of code today. We're going to modify it slightly on CodePen here, and I'll put this URL below obviously. And it's been supplied by Miriam. Apologise if I said your name wrong. So let's get started. I'm going to enable my visual builder. Once enabled, I'm going to go down and I'll simply delete this section here and we'll start from scratch. So I'm going to create a new section, little blue button right here. I'm going to make it a regular section. Inside I'm going to put a row with a single column. Inside that column I'm going to put a simple Divi code module. There it is. Okay, just so we can see what's going on, I'm going to give this a background color. So I'm going to just roll down, there's the background just below. I'm going to make it black just like that. So when we put something in there, we should be able to see what we put in there. Let's go back over. Okay, if we look at this code, they're actually using regular list items and an unordered list they're targeting with CSS. Now, I don't want all of my lists in my whole website to be targeted, so I'm going to modify this code a little bit by just adding a class name, and you'll see this will mess up when I do this until we fix it. So after the div at the top here, I'm going to give it the class equals, and you can call it what you want. A couple of inverted commas, put the name inside there. I'm going to call mine DTZ for dots. It's got to be unique and make a bit of sense to you. Okay, so now that we've given that a class of dots, we can copy the DTZ. And every time we see UL down here, we can paste that in front of it, but we've got to put a dot first. So it's dot for a class name, and then paste our class name and a space for the URL. Let's just copy the DTZ.DTZ. And this is important we do this because it might make your site look very strange if you don't do this. UL, so I'm going to paste that in front of there. Make sure we've got a space. And we've got a couple more here with the keyframes. And we're almost there. I'm just hitting Control V to paste and putting a space in. There we go, we're done. But that way we're not going to target every single one that's on our site. We're just going to target the ones that are within the DTZ, this little class right here. So now we've got this, let's copy this. Control C. We'll go back to the site and we'll drop it in here. Or not here actually, if we roll up text and the content where it says code, that's where we're going to drop it in. There we go, and you don't see much because we've got no CSS yet, so it's just a bunch of dots. But if we roll down a little bit, we'll open some style tags, which are left pointy bracket, the word style, right pointy bracket, and it immediately puts in a closing one for you when you put in the opening one. The only difference is it's got a / in front of the word style for a closing tag. Now we can go back over to our code and we can copy the CSS, but we don't need the body because that's this dark background here. We've got our own background going on. So from where we put in that first class name, DTZ up here, let's roll all the way down, select it, Control C to copy. And we can drop that inside of our style tags right here. And there we go. You can see there's little glowing buttons going along like that. It's working. We've got to give our actual section a dark background if we want to see the full effect. So let's do that. And what I thought would be fun would be to have a couple of words just on top and on the bottom. We can do that by adding a bit of HTML up here. But before we do that, let's put this in so we can see exactly what's going on. So I'm going to go into my section. So we've got blue for a section, green for the row. Let's just put this background in the row for the time being. I'm in the row, going down to background. I'm going to give it that black background also. Okay, now that we can see it, let's go and modify our code and add a bit of text. And we can also add a link. So we can go back into the module itself now, the dark tab right here, cog. Okay, in our HTML part, after our class pointy bracket there, let's drop down one and we'll put in a bit of text for some fun. So I'm going to open a new div, left pointy, the word div, and right pointy to close it. And it's put a closing one on the bottom, as you can see. We've got an opening one there and it's put a closing one for us. And let's put some text in here. So I'm going to open again, left pointy, I'm going to make it H2, a heading 2, and we'll give it a class equals, and we'll give it a name like gtext, gtxt, or whatever you want to call yours is fine. Make sure it's unique. Close that, and it's put a closing tag on for us right there, which is great. And now we want to put in what we want it to say. So I'm using capitals here. I'm going to say new attraction, or whatever you want to say. And as you can see, it's put it in over there. So because we've given it a class, we can target it with some CSS now. So let's select the class name. We'll go down to our style down below here and we'll drop down. And because it's a class, we want to have a dot or a period always, then the class name. Then we want to open and close some curly brackets. And inside we can tell it what we want it to do. Well, the first thing I want it to do is to be white in color. So let's say color white, which is hashtag FFF semicolon. There we go, you can see it now. Secondly, let's pop it over to the middle. So we can do that with text align, center, make a semicolon there. Now let's push it down from the top a little bit. So we'll say margin top 30 pixels. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that so we got the same thing twice. So from the div to the closing div, Control C to copy. I'm going to drop down. I'm going to paste it just below. And we've got one top and bottom now. And this second one, I'm going to give it a different name. I'm just going to change the class name to 2. And we'll change what it says here. Whatever. Click here. And we'll put a little chevron over it by holding the Alt key down. 0187 for a thing. And it's over there. Now we need to go down and give it some style. And again, I'm going to copy all of this. I'm going to drop down, paste it below, put the new class name on the end, which is a 2. There we are, it's popped in there. I want to push it further down, so I'm going to give it 100 pixels and see how that looks. That's better, that's spread everything out nicely. Okay, now we've got our background, we can work on doing everything we need. So let's just save this for a moment. I'm going to go into my section, and this is where we're going to put the image that we want to see in the section right here, blue tag. I'm going to go down to background. I'm going to put in an image. Let's grab this city and put that in there in the background. I'm going to use a parallax effect on it by switching that on, and I'm going to leave mine on true parallax. That way when we move, it's got a bit of movement to it that's different from the speed of the scrolling at the front there. That's usually very eye-catching. Now also I want to make our row full width and make it the same height as our section, and I only want to see this when we hover on it. So while we're in the section, let's go over to the design and take away any padding top and bottom. So that's design tab, down to spacing. Put a 0 in there. Hit the chain. We've got no padding there. Fantastic. We can save our section now and get out of there. I want to make my row full width, so it'll cover the whole of the picture. Green tab for the row. I'm going to go over to design, sizing. And we're going to use width. I'm going to drag that up to 100%. I'm going to copy that, Control C, and I'm going to drop it in max width below, Control V to paste. We've now got a full width row. Okay, let's make it as wide as we want it. And remember, we've got that image behind there that we're going to be looking at. Okay, and while we're in the row, we'll take the background away from the row itself, so that's back in the content background. And here's the color we put in so we could see what was going on. Let's take that away completely. We're just left with what's left on the actual code module itself. And we've got padding now, still top and bottom on our row. So let's take that away. Design, spacing. I'm going to put a 0 in there. Nothing at the top now. And the same for the bottom. Okay, great. Now we've done that, let's get out of our row. We'll go back into our module. Let's make it the height that we want it. I can close up the code here. We'll go back into the background. Okay, so I'm going to go into the color and I'm going to pull the opacity down by clicking on it and pulling the right slider down so we can see the image below. Let's add a bit of padding top and bottom so it's the actual height that we want it. Let's pull this down a bit more. I think I might change that color in a moment. We'll go over to design and spacing and let's give it some padding top and bottom. Hit the chain and do the opposite end. Yeah, I think that'll work. Great. Now if we want to add a link so when they click on the click here it goes somewhere in the content, go down to link, just put your link in there wherever you want to take them. And we don't want to see this at all when we first scroll down it. We only want to see it when they hover over it. So let's go to our design tab and we can do that with filters. Down to design, filters, opacity. I'm going to hit the little arrow, and this is common to most Divi modules. If you roll over, hit the little dark writing there, some icons will pop up. There's an arrow there. We can set a hover state, little arrow right there, and a desktop state when your mouse is not on it. So for desktop, we don't want to see it at all. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to bring the opacity down to 0, so it's invisible. Still there, but it's just invisible. Then when we hover over it, I want it to be fully visible. And let's change that background color. Now we've got it the height we want it to a nice solid color. So again, I'm going to go back to content, background. Let's make it purple, but I'll pull the color down by clicking on the color and just dragging it towards the bottom. That's great. Now the time it takes to switch from desktop state to hover state by default with Divi is 300 milliseconds. I'm going to slow this down for a bit of drama so it fades in a lot slower. To do that, go over to the advanced tab, go down to transitions, transition duration, there's 300. You can either slide it or type in a value. I'm going to take mine up to just over a second. I like to use the ease in and ease out for my speed curve, and we should be good to go. Let's save the changes, save the page changes, and exit the Visual Builder. And there we go, there's our little parallax image right there. When we hover over it, it's going to take about a second, and that's going to pop in, and people can click on it and go to where you want to take them. When they hover back off again, it's back to your little parallax image there. And that's a nice little feature to have on your site. If people are mousing around and this sort of thing starts to happen, it's going to get their attention pretty quick, which is what you want. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.